In an era where wrestling fans tend to be more cynical, caring more about star ratings and political machinations than simply getting wrapped up in the storyline drama, there was a man who made us all believe once more. Daniel Bryan. When it seemed that WrestleMania 30 was going to come and go without the most beloved WWE star having his moment in the sun, we raged. When Bryan got that moment and stood tall beneath the confetti and pyro, we cheered. And when he announced his forced retirement at the age of 34, we were emotionally eviscerated. Every wrestling fan who believes in Daniel Bryan sees a little bit of themselves in him. Neighborly, mild-mannered, and humble to his very heart. We recall how Bryan would just smile and shake his head in disbelief at the stirring crowd responses he would receive, graciously overwhelmed by the positive energy. Those deafening cheers came from fans who saw him as their avatar, the down-to-earth, good guy that's capable of extraordinary things. We believe in Daniel Bryan because he's one of us and is also what we'd all aspire to be. And when he made his return to the ring in 2018, there was one affirmative word that we all echoed as one. I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 things you didn't know about Daniel Bryan. Join us. Number 10, Eastern Exposure. Daniel Bryan was only 18 years old when he made his in-ring debut in October 1999, wrestling against fellow Texas Wrestling Academy student Brian Kendrick. The match took place in a country music-themed bar, and per Bryan's recollection, they worked hard, but the match wasn't particularly good. But all Bryan would need is experience, and soon enough, he'd be traveling abroad to gain some under rather extraordinary circumstances. Less than 2 months after his first match, Bryan traveled with the fellow TWA graduate Lance Cade and their mentor Shawn Michaels over to Japan, where Bryan and Cade would wrestle in tag team matches for, of all places, Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, or FMW. Michaels got his two proteges the gig after agreeing to work the shows in a guest referee capacity. 2 weeks before Christmas '99, Bryan and Cade, 18 years old apiece, actually wrestled on a pair of weekend pay-per-views for FMW. How many wrestlers that young actually get to wrestle on pay-per-view? Besides Nicholas, of course. Number 9, Grounded Flight. Thanks to WWE 2K19's Showcase mode, fans who weren't previously aware of Daniel Bryan's 2003 Velocity match against a yellow-painted John Cena learned about that particular not-so-hidden gem. It's true that Bryan had kicked around in dark matches and the like for WWE in the early 2000s, but it sometimes gets forgotten that Bryan actually had a developmental deal in that time frame for a promotion called Memphis Championship Wrestling. Prior to Memphis's closing in 2001, Bryan was actually on the verge of joining the main WWE roster at the age of 19, or so he recalls. Bryan remembers that he and Kendrick, also working in Memphis at the time, were told in early 2001 that WWE was looking to begin a new cruiserweight division and wanted to bring up both of them to take part in it. Can you imagine Daniel Bryan as the American Dragon going toe-to-toe with Tajiri, Jerry Lynn, Dean Malenko, and even Jeff Hardy in 2001? Alas, it wasn't to be, and many years would pass, 9 to be exact, before Bryan would become a WWE regular. Number 8, Don't Have a Cow. Today, Bryan is most synonymous with his yes lock, his own variation of the lapel lock that sees him scissor the victim's arm in a hammerlock hold with his leg while cross-facing the opponent into near certain submission. But before adopting that painful hold as one of his modern finishers, Bryan was apt to use another hold that was just as uncomfortable. That hold was cattle mutilation, a bridging double chicken wing that pins the opponent face down on the canvas. Bryan had been using the hold since his Memphis days, having first seen the Great Muta use it in WCW, but he had no idea that it had such an unusual name. He only learned it when his semi-final opponent in the 2001 ECWA Super 8 tournament, Tom Reckless Youth Carter, suggested that Bryan beat him with cattle mutilation. Bryan was apparently dumbfounded until Youth told him that it was the name of the hold he'd been using for some time. By Bryan's own admission, he disliked the name and resisted calling it that, until resigning himself to just go with it as all of his eventual Ring of Honor peers called it cattle mutilation anyway. Number 7, Honorable Champion. On September 17th, 2005, Bryan, as Bryan Danielson, won the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title by defeating James Gibson, also known as Jamie Noble. Danielson would hold the belt for 15 months, spanning almost the entire calendar year of 2006 before dropping it to Homicide at that year's final battle. At 462 days, Bryan Danielson has the third longest reign as Ring of Honor's champion, behind only Nigel McGuinness's 545 days and Samoa Joe's staggering 645 days. Where Bryan holds a record, however, is in title defenses. In his 15 months months as Ring of Honor World Champion, Bryan defended the belt 38 times, which is tied with McGuinness for the most in company history. For Bryan, that's one title defense every 12 days, which is better than McGuinness's average of one defense every 14 days. Bryan also defeated McGuinness in August 2006 to unify Nigel's Pure Championship with the Ring of Honor belt, so the American Dragons got him there as well. Number 6, the lame name game. All told, if Bryan Danielson had to change his name upon entering WWE, it could have been worse. Inverting the names and excising the son to create Daniel Bryan was certainly better than coming up with an entirely new name from scratch. Perhaps Seth Rollins is cooler sounding than Tyler Black, but other darlings in development haven't had it so smooth. And Bryan himself almost had a pretty curious name change, and it was one of his own creation. When told he had to come up with a name other than Bryan Danielson, he consulted William Regal, and the two set about cooking up some professional handles. The first name Buddy came to mind since it was Bryan's dad's name, and Bryan himself suggested the surname Peacock after English wrestler Steve Peacock. Now, could you honestly picture WrestleMania 30 ending with Buddy Peacock and his yes movement standing tall? Fortunately, Regal was the one who thought of simply flipping around Bryan Danielson into Daniel Bryan. So clearly, we all need to send Sir William some gift baskets and some warm regards. Number 5, Music Man. We can all think of a few wrestlers that have gotten on mic in a recording studio and belted out a song or two. Chris Jericho has Fozzy, Macho Man gave rap a go, Shawn Michaels sang his iconic entrance music after both Sherry and Vince had a pop at it, and everybody who took part in WrestleMania the album should be ashamed of themselves. As it turns out, Daniel Bryan is also part of the club of wrestlers who fancy themselves crooners of some sort, and the song itself involves wrestling. In 2011, Bryan laid down backing vocals for a tribute song about Captain Lou Albano, who had passed away 2 years earlier. The song's primary vocalist is singer-songwriter Kimya Dawson and also includes vocals from hip-hop artist Aesop Rock. The song itself is moody and melancholy and rather eclectic in its composition, but it's quite catchy as well. Bryan can first be heard about 45 seconds into the song, and we'll let you be the judge of its quality. Number 4, Inspired Positivity. We all know the yes taunt, the index fingers to the sky, arm thrusts, and the repeats of yes, 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 which sounds like somebody in the next room is having a little bit too much fun. Fans caught on to Bryan's employment of the chant and arm gesture and continue to echo it 7 years after he first brought it into wrestling. Athletes in other sports adopted the gesture, a sign of both its effectiveness as well as Bryan's popularity, but the fact is, he lifted it from another person. Said person would be Diego Sanchez, a veteran UFC lightweight and welterweight who has amassed 28 wins in 16 years as a professional fighter. While making his entrance at UFC 95 in February 2009, a highly intense Sanchez grunted yes while pumping his fists at repeated intervals, something that Bryan thought he could co-opt as an obnoxious heel at the turn of 2012. Sanchez was admittedly cool with Bryan making yes his own thing, and the two would meet for the first time several years later, and Sanchez even wished Bryan well upon his 2016 retirement. Number 3, Fitting Dedication. From 2005 through 2013, Daniel Bryan would be voted as the best technical wrestler in the world by the voters of Dave Meltzer's annual Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. The only other wrestlers to have won said award at least 4 times are Chris Benoit, who won it 5 times, Jushin Liger, who won it 4 times, and Zack Sabre Jr., who's also won it 4 times. For Bryan to have received the honor in 9 consecutive years speaks highly of how his skills are viewed. That's why it was appropriate, after Bryan's forced retirement in 2016, that Meltzer decided to name the award after him, becoming henceforth known as the Bryan Danielson Award. It's not the first Observer Award dedication. The Lou Thez/Ric Flair Award goes to the Wrestler of the Year, while the Bruiser Brody Memorial Award is given to the Best Brawler. But either way you look at it, that's some pretty lofty company for a modern marvel like Bryan to be among. Number 2, returns to the top. We sometimes forget that when Daniel Bryan parlayed his way to the WWE Championship at the end of WrestleMania 30, it wasn't his first reign with the belt. Previously, Bryan had held the belt on 2 occasions, losing one immediately on a Money in the Bank cash-in and having the other stripped from him the next night due to a technicality. As of this recording, Bryan is now a 4-time WWE Champion, which is definitely notable. In fact, out of the 50 men that have been officially recognized as WWE Champion, Bryan is one of only 12 men to have held the belt on 4 or more occasions. That list includes John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, The Undertaker, and Edge. When he was cast as WWE's B-plus player, it seemed unfathomable that Bryan would ever reach enough WWE title reigns to join this particular group, and in many ways, it's still quite surprising. And number 1, WrestleMania Trifecta. The apex of Bryan's career was definitely that crowning moment in New Orleans Superdome, holding 2 championship belts aloft before 75,000 100,000 screaming fans, each chanting yes in unison with the pyroblasts. It's one of the all-time greatest WrestleMania moments in the 3.5 decades of them, and it's something that nobody that ever witnessed it will ever forget. It's also part of a very special trifecta that only Daniel Bryan and no other wrestler has ever achieved. To date, Bryan is the only WWE performer to have won a WWE title match, an Intercontinental title match, and a tag team title match on a WrestleMania pay-per-view card. Bryan and Kane retained the tag belts 1 year earlier over Dolph Ziggler and Big E and won the IC title in the 7-way ladder match at WrestleMania 31. Technically, The Miz managed to win matches for all 3 belts on a WrestleMania Sunday, but his IC title win came on the pre-show of WrestleMania 29, so Bryan's the only one to have done it on all 3 of the actual broadcasts. Others like Bret Hart, Big Show, Hulk Hogan, and a few more have wrestled for all 3, but of all people, it was only the face of the Yes Movement that could pull it off. And that's our list. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter here. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.